Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stan Czebruk, and I, in 2009, when I was 51 years old, I got a phone call while hiking with a friend of mine in Scotland. And basically, the phone call was from my wife, who basically called to tell me that I had cancer. What I had was left ear. I had a blotch there, and I went to a dermatologist, had it tested. He sent it to McGill University, and they determined it was melanoma and it was cancer. And in the nature of where it was basically very close to some of the veins, but it was also an interior, so it was considered level 2 cancer. So I had level 2 cancer, and therefore I had, in total, I've had 8 surgeries or 8 procedures in the last 9 years. So in 2009, I had my lobe removed, or parts of my lobe removed, and in 2011, I had more of my lobe removed. I also was going on yearly CT scans to determine, to take a look at my lungs, because there was a belief that because of where the cancer was located, there was arteries or veins that could easily access to my chest area. So therefore, they continued to give me a CT scan every year. And in 2013, a CT scan basically determined that I had cancer in my lungs. So it was small-celled, and it was all over the place in my lungs. And once again, melanoma cancer in my lungs. So I became a level 3 cancer patient, because basically I had it metastasized to my lungs. I then went to the MUHC, and with Dr. Mihashu, who is listed over here as one of your helpers, or basically fundees, or yeah, and basically I've been part of Dr. Mihashu's clinics since 2013. And he's basically taken care of me. The first thing I had, in terms of what Dr. Miller was talking about, I had chemotherapy. I had chemotherapy for about 2 or 3 months, and it was part of a trial. I was part of a Bristol-Myers Squibb trial for a drug that they're selling right now that Dr. Miller also spoke about, which is an IPI drug, which you will see referred to, if you watch TV, it's called Opdivo. So that's the commercial name. If you watch American, US cable TV, it's called Opdivo. So chemo didn't work, and chemo is a killer of a drug. Literally, it kills cancer cells. So what happens is you don't feel particularly great after you have a chemotherapy treatment. But it's the first line of defense, or the first offensive attack, one way or another. I then moved to Yervoy, and Yervoy is a precursor to Opdivo. And Yervoy is the first, I believe that's an IPI drug, and I basically was on that for a short period of time, at which point I also went on what's called, which is a nivolumab drug, called Opdivo, and this was in 2014, or just before 2014. But before that happened, I had a PET scan done, and it was found that I had 2 large tumors on the right side of my head. So I basically had what's called a craniotomy. Basically, they cut your skull, they bevel cut it, and they removed the 2 tumors, which weren't on the lobe itself, or not in the brain, but rather just floating around. But they were about the size of your fist, or they were quite big. They were 2 by 3 centimeters each. Had radiation, or basically they did the surgery. It's a 5 or 6 hour surgery. Then basically glue the skull, put the skull back, put some, whatever it is, titanium screws in to make sure it stays into place. and basically gave me 45 staples into my skull to keep it in place. So that was kind of chilling. And right after that, basically, I didn't do very well with the surgery in some respects because I developed what's blood clots. And I had blood clots from my groin area to the bottom of my right foot. So I had quite a few clots, and they were concerned that the clots were going to, or pieces of the clots were going to go into either my lung or my heart or serious organs. So I had an inferior vena cava filter installed into my chest. So that's basically what looks like a whisk, and it's there, and what it does is it sits in your vena cava, which I gather is a vein. I don't know, it's all Greek to me, but anyway. Sorry?
The superior vena cava.
The superior, okay. Well, it's called an inferior vena cava filter. Hey?
Is it the inferior or the superior? It would be the
I would inferior. I got an inferior vena cava filter. And basically it looks like a whisk, and what it does is the blood rushes with a clot. Sorry? Repeat it.
I can't say
A blood clot, and breaks it up and makes sure it doesn't go into one of the organs, okay? So that's fine. 2015, I get 2 more tumors, except this time on this side of the head, another craniotomy, another 5-hour surgery, 65 staples to basically open up my head and basically remove the 2 tumors, once again, about the size of your fists, and go from there. At which point I had already done Yervoy, and then I began Opdivo. And Opdivo is the nivolumab. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Okay, that's the second immunotherapy drug that I did. I basically did Yervoy first and then Opdivo next. So I've now, in terms of Dr. Miller's scales, I'm basically on all of those scales, okay? Because I did the Yervoy and then I did the Opdivo, okay? And I did the Opdivo for a few months, and it basically it didn't go where I wanted to. Cancer was gone from my head through radiation and the surgery, but I still had the cancer in my lungs. Then in July 2016, a product developed by Merck called Keytruda, or the Promobuzulab, is basically the drug that I am taking right now. As a matter of fact, this afternoon, I had my 34th treatment at the Glen at the Royal Vic Hospital. So I have 1 more treatment in 3 weeks, and then I will have done 35 treatments of Keytruda, 2 years. That's it for me. Why? Because in April 2017, I had a PET scan done, and it was determined that I had no more cancer anywhere. No lungs cancer, no cancer in the head either. In May of this year, the same thing occurred. I had a PET scan, and basically I do not have any cancer in my system. So I am done with cancer, except now I'm taking something called Synthroid, which is a thyroid drug, because I have 9 nodules in my chest that still seem to be a challenge, and they know it's not cancer, but they're not sure what it is. And the thyroid seems to be the point of attack one way or another. So that's been my history up until this time period. So I'm about to get rid of Keytruda and finish my 2-year. Now, I will tell you, in 2017, just for those people, and I'm going to talk as a patient. So once again, in terms of Dr. Miller's scale, I'm one of those points there. 2017, I had 70 medical appointments. That would include every time I had a treatment, I had a blood test, I saw the oncologist, and I did a treatment. Okay, so I did it 14 or 15 times in 2017. Right off the bat, that's 45 times. I also did for my head MRIs, and I saw my neurosurgeon. I also did CT scans and PET scans, and over and above that, I also saw my GP, dermatologist, cardiologist, and whoever else. So as a patient, you got to get prepared for time, because you have to get a lot of things done. You have to cover all your bases, so you have to be prepared to accept the fact that you have 70 appointments. This year I'm not going to have 70 appointments, but I'm still going to have 40 or 50, one way or another. Okay? So it's important for you as a patient, if you are a patient with cancer, this is what to expect. The other thing that you got to keep aware of is that even though you have cancer, you have to stay healthy, because it's up to you to make sure that your body is prepared for all the medicines and the treatments and the radiation that you might get. So I walk typically between 90 and 120 to 150 minutes per day. Not only that, but I try as much as possible, and my wife helps me out, I eat well. So I stay in good shape because I have to stay in good shape. If you want to defeat the cancer, one of the things you have to do is make sure you stay healthy, okay? So that's really, really important, okay? Last thing is two more things. In terms of the walk's a lot of fun. December 23rd, I've been to the last 4 or 5 of them, I'm not sure, and I moved it over to Mount Royal, because Mount Royal is my hood. I live about 30-minute walk from here. It's my hood. Mount Royal is a fun place to go. If you haven't been there, you haven't been there probably for a long time, and the last time you were there, you were either skating on Beaver Lake or tobogganing in and around there. So it's a good time to go back and a good time to see the park that a lot of you once went to when you were kids. If you lived in the Montreal area, a lot of kids went to Beaver Lake for whatever reason. So it's there. Last thing in terms of empathy versus sympathy. And I want to point this out. I don't want sympathy. I don't want people to say, oh, I'm sorry to hear you got cancer. Oh, you know what, it's too bad you're too young, or oh, it happened to you, I can't believe it, whatever else. I don't need to hear that. I've already heard that. I don't need to feel any more negative vibes. The reality is, I want empathy. Tell me, even if you're lying, tell me I look good. Tell me that you're proud that you see me walking, or you see me walk on a regular basis, because I want to be positive, I want to stay positive, and this is what I do to make sure that I'm positive. So the bottom line is, and I'm pretty much through, is that I have had chemotherapy, I've had Yervoy, Opdivo, and Keytruda, 3 immunotherapies, and none of them together, all of them at separate time frames. I've had 2 surgeries on the head. I have 2 vena cava filters. I had another one put in, so I have 2 vena cava filters. Plus, I've also had biopsies on the chest and biopsies in the lungs to basically determine where the cancer was, or if there were cancers all over the place. It is important that you prepare yourself for whatever can happen, and a lot of things can happen because you're in constant motion based on the medical profession. And I will point out to you, Dr. Mihashu and his team and the entire teams at the Neurological Institute, the Montreal General, and the Royal Vic at the Glen, and even before that at the other one. I've never had a bad experience. May have waited a couple of times. But by and large, I never had a bad experience, and I have good service. And we do have good service here in the province of Quebec. We have great doctors, we have great staff, we have great hospitals. Take advantage of it if you can, and you'll do fine. And that's it for me. Now,